So now we have our GUI ready, which is not yet functional because we have not made any call to web service in the backend. So that is what we will be filling next. So let's double click add button here. So when we double click, it adds a method here where we need to write our logic that will be executed when the add button is clicked. If you really see, there is one common piece that all four methods have, and that common piece is fetching the number 1 and number 2 from the UI. So let's write that as a separate function and say fetch numbers from input texts. So this is a function we are creating which will convert the string that is specified in two functions in two text boxes on the UI, and it will convert that to integers. So this method has been created in the end. So let's remove this exception. Let us add two class level members, int num1 and num2. So what this method is going to do is it's going to initialize num1 by parsing the value from first text box txt num1. So what we're essentially doing is we are doing get text from first text box, converting that to an integer using integer.parseInt and assigning to num1. Same way we would be converting second integer from second text box and assigning this value to num2. Now by making this call in our add function, we have ensured like we have fetched the latest values of num1 and num2. So once we fetch that value, what ultimately we want to do is we want to call web service with num1 and num2 to give results back to us. And once we get the results back, we really want to set that result to the text box on UI. So how we do that is txt result dot set text, and here we'll give the result, which will again make an int. So result is going to get the value from web service call, which is what we'll be filling next. So before making a web service call, let's comment this line here for time being. We need to understand one more concept. So when we added a web service reference here, there is lots of code that is generated for us. So one thing to understand here is there is a calculator web service.java, which is an interface, and there is a calculator web service underscore service, which is a proxy class. So this class ultimately is going to talk back to web service and getting the result back to us. So what we'll use an object of this interface type, calculator web service. So let's define two more class level variables. First is calculator web service, which is an interface, so let's define a proxy, and second is our web service. So what we will do is we'll initialize our interface in the constructor of our UI class. So let me go to this. So when we run our class for the first time, so this is the constructor of our GUI. Here we will instantiate proxy with new calculator web service. So there is a class that we have. So this class is object we will create. So once we have object of this class, we'll have to call a method on that, get calculator service port. So this is going to return the interface back to us, and that interface would know what different methods are available that we will be able to see here. So this interface has all the four methods that are defined in the web service. So we'll be using this interface to call the methods. So let me go back to our UI code. Yeah, so proxy is initialized. Now in add, what we can do is we can uncomment this line. We can say proxy dot add integers num1 and num2. So we are passing two integers to proxy. So ultimately the call will happen to web service. All that will be taken care of by automatically, and then what result we get back, that we assign to the text box. So this line is, these two lines and these three lines are going to be common in all the functions, all four buttons that we have created on our UI. It's just that we'll be calling, rather than add integer, we'll be calling different methods. So let's first quickly validate the first function that we have implemented. Now if I click add, so immediately we are getting an answer which is coming from the web service like here. So let's quickly fill in other functions also to make our calculator fully functional. For subtract, we'll copy paste the same code here. Sorry. For subtract, this is the function that is created for us. Fetch two numbers, same. Here we will just change subtract integers. Then third is for multiplication. Where is the function call? It's here. So we add this code here, and rather than add integers, here we call multiply integers. And fourth one and the last one that we have is division. So division function is added for us. So here we call. Now let's indent our code. Right click format, it will indent the code. So let's go ahead and give it a try. So this app is already running. Let me close it. Now let's rerun it. So if we add, we are getting value 12. If we subtract, it's 4. Multiply 32, division gives us 2. So all the functions of our calculator are working, and we have just created a distributed app where calculator is running on a machine which can be different from the machine where web service is deployed. And all the calculations that are happening, those calculations are happening on the server side where web service is running rather than client side. So that concludes our prototype and the small application development using Java, where we created a website, web service and a client which is consuming that. Now this client can be either a phone app, or it can be a website, or it can be another web service which is consuming any given web service. So you can try those as an exercise, as an examples.